Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. We're a father-son business podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And, big problems happen all over the place, right, Camden?
Oh yeah.
Those problems are falling down from the sky. Or I was reading this morning, because of the high heat, there's apparently more people going to the ER with burns from falling down on the asphalt and getting burned. And that makes sense. I've been there, done that. I remember that as a kid growing up in Texas, slipping and falling next to that egg I was frying in the middle of the street one summer afternoon.
I was going to say, I think most of our big problems down here in Arizona are more from a lack of things coming from the sky than it is from things coming from the sky.
There you go. Well, and back to my Texas roots. We got joining us from Texas today, Mr. Scott Reib. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great, Otis. Thanks for having me today.
Oh man, I'm excited because there's two groups of people I've always enjoyed picking on in my life, and you are in one of those groups. And that the other one, just so to cure the curiosity, is people in the Intel world. So
okay,
yeah, that goes back from my days in the special operations community. But the other one was always lawyers, because lawyers were always telling me what I couldn't do, and I was always like, really? So Scott, I'm always curious. And looking at your website, I don't think you're one of those lawyers, because I saw the word advice in there, which I think is such a critical piece for lawyers. So, Scott, and just following through on that, how do you help your clients? I mean, that's probably the best way to put, in my mind, as I'm formulating this, help your clients be more comfortable with calling you up and not doing that. What's an hour of my time worth? Is it worth, and that sort of weighing.
Exactly, and the reason we formed our subscription model in 2012 was I had this clients were making huge mistakes, as they would rather flip a coin, friend, do anything but call me, because when they called me, money would fly out of their pocket. So I had this vision for on-demand service where a business owner just text me, call me, and say, "Hey, Scott, we think it might be a legal issue. What do you think?"
This episode of the Cam and Otis Show is brought to you by Evergood Adventure Wines. Our loyal listeners know Evergood's founder, Matthew Hexter, from his appearances on the show that never disappointed, and Evergood Adventure Wines doesn't disappoint either. Evergood is a craft winery from Colorado that makes wine from lemons, not grapes. Picture adult lemonades, perfect for your next backyard barbecue or hanging out with friends at the beach or the pool. No need to drink a warm red grape wine when it's 100 degrees out, or hotter here in Tucson. Evergood over ice is the perfect refreshment for a hot summer day. They come in a variety of flavors, including lemon, strawberry, lime, grapefruit, and watermelon. These non-carbonated wines check all the boxes: gluten-free, vegan, low sugar, and low in sulfites. Best of all, they taste damn good and they have fun names, like their OG lemon wine called Skier Pea. Yep, you heard that one right. And I'll tell you, Skier Pea is one of my favorites. Evergood ships to 41 states, so you can order your lemon wines online at evergoodadventurewines.com. Plus, Matthew is offering 20% off for our listeners. Just use promo code CAM-OTIS at checkout to get 20% off and start enjoying these amazing lemon wines. Go to evergoodadventurewines.com and click Buy Now to redeem your Cam and Otis Show exclusive.
Hey, Scott, so, as a business owner, one of my things, and I'll give my shout out to my patent IP lawyer, Mike Martinson. But I also learned that Mike's an expensive man to hang out with. And I don't really call him up and chit chat and bounce ideas off of him, because I'm watching the clock tick. I'm going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching every 6 minutes and going, wow, okay, dude, you're good. But I feel the money running out of my wallet. So instead of asking him questions, I find myself spending an hour or more or who knows how long Googling that same problem that Mike could probably answer in 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't know. I guess it'd be 12 or 18 minutes, really, since we're talking lawyers. How do you work with your clients so that they don't feel like it's, every time I speak to Scott, by the way, you're not charging us for this right now, are you? Oh, geez, here we go. But how do you help your clients come to terms with that and be more comfortable with using you for the reason they hired you?
Yeah. The simple answer is I created a subscription model. About 10 years ago, I figured out that I had this problem, that I had clients just like you that had questions they really wanted to ask me, but they didn't do it because of the money flying out of their pocket. So I had to create a program that took away that wall. And the only way to do that was to set a set monthly fee for a bundle of services. And one of those is unlimited access for questions. And so by doing that, we eliminated that barrier. And now I'm their lawyer, but I'm also their friend, and they're willing to just call and talk to me. And we might have a 30-minute call about nothing that has anything to do with legal, because they're not getting billed for it. That fear is gone. And now we have a really open relationship where that's where I can really help, because that's when you'll really tell me what you're doing. And I can tell you, hey, don't do it that way, or do it. If you do it this way, it'll fix that. But if you're charging by the hour, which has been the tradition since 1950, there's a real disincentive to talk to your lawyer. I think it's a real problem. And so we charge flat fees for project work. Like if you just said, hey, Scott, we need you to draft this project, draft this contract, or sell this business or buy this business, we'll do it on a flat fee. We feel like we should be able to give you a price. We've done this long enough. We should know what it's going to cost. And if we're wrong, we should lose money. It shouldn't cost you more money. And then we have our access subscription program for just the general counsel questions, general document reviews, that kind of stuff.
It's interesting, and full disclosure, in your one sheet, you did talk about this analogy, but it's coming up a lot as we're talking now, about wanting to shift it from the emergency room to the primary care. And I love that so much. But, Dad, as you were asking that question, the thing that came to mind is, when you go see a doctor, when you see a doctor once a year, and I'm going in to see, whether it's primary care or ER, I've already Googled everything. I already know all the different cancers I have because of the way my foot hurts. I already know all this different stuff. And it's something we talked with, some other guests about in the medical field, that it really creates this weird relationship where it's like, I'm coming in, I already have all this information. It's probably wrong, but I'm coming in like telling you all this information instead of just having a normal interaction and letting you be the expert there. Is that something else that you see in the legal field, where people kind of come in with a little bit too much of their own homework for the conversation?
They don't seem to do that. Another analogy, Cam, would be that we're almost a fitness trainer or a fitness coach. And so we're seeing them on a regular basis, and so we can tweak things along the way, right? Small hinges swing big doors. And so it's not just the once a year checkup. It's that we're talking on a regular basis through email, text, and then we're doing monthly coaching calls so that we can keep that legal fitness in order. But instead of being that emergency room where everything's on fire, come fix this for us. And we can fix it, but it's going to be really expensive and you're not going to like it.
In those other fields, I even think back to, my older sister, his daughter, Sierra. We talked with her about physical therapy, and it's all these little things that you can do that make such a big impact in the long run. I can see how just from like a stress level, this makes a big impact. Could you talk about like what these little bits of legal advice actually do for people in their business aside from that stress level?
Yeah, I don't really sell legal services. I sell security and peace of mind. By knowing that they can text me or call me, 24/7 really, it just lowers that stress level of, is this problem going to kill my business? We work on a philosophy that we call the shatterproof process. We want our businesses to be built in a way that they'll bend and not break. And part of that is knowing that they've got a legal team that's there for them with any question. There are no stupid legal questions in our world. Just ask the question, and if it's no big deal, we'll just tell you, no, it's no big deal. Don't worry about that. And then they can go about doing what's important. Because my belief is that everyone that we work with has a dream, that they're working on this dream, and their small business is the best tool to achieve that dream. And so we've got to take down those barriers and make it where they can feel safe and secure, and moving forward and scaling those companies so that eventually, they can maybe retire or sell the business, but without the ability to scale in a confident way, being a small business owner can be a real pain.
What's like a number one lesson in the, because there's, I'm sure there's a gazillion of them if you go through the whole life of a business, but I think I find the most interesting, and generally speaking, that my clients, as an executive coach that I work with, in that growth stage, right? We've survived the seed round, the startup. We've got products, we've got customers, and now we're in the growth stage. What's a mistake, a legal type mistake that you see, or anything? I mean, that you've seen with your clients that are going through that growth stage?
Yeah, the biggest mistake I've been seeing lately is that people haven't taken the time to own their brand. You mentioned your IP attorney. They're forming their LLC. Hopefully they're doing it with a lawyer, but even if they aren't, they've got this LLC, and they think because the name was available in their state that they now own that brand, and they may now have gone 5 years down the road. You say that now they're selling product, they have customers, this thing looks like it's going to actually make it, and then they get a letter in the mail saying cease and desist from using this name because we own the trademark for it, and you've got 30 days to rebrand your company.
Yeah, and I had that happen to a friend of mine. That's interesting. I thought he was the one that screwed it up, but yes, that's a great one. And matter of fact, we were talking with it's interestingly enough. Help me out with his name, Camden, the marketing guy that we were just talking to last week. Yes, Eric. Eric said the same thing about owning your brand from a marketing perspective. So that's really interesting. Folks, there's two. Maybe it's an indicator that you better own in multiple ways, own your brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the only way to do that is to do a comprehensive search, not just of the United States Patent and Trademark Office, but Google, all the state registrations. I mean, you have to really try to figure out, is anyone using the brand you want or something so similar to it that it's going to cause confusion in the marketplace? Because if that's there, then you need to go back to the drawing board and find a new brand. And we're talking about the representation of it, the name, possibly the logo. There's so much more that goes into branding, but those are the things that most people think about. And you've got to have a registered trademark if you want to own that and build a really scale and know you've got it. Because one of the worst things that could happen is you get 10 years down the road, you're ready to sell your business, and then you find out, oh, I don't really own that brand, and the value was in that you had built this 10-year brand. And so you've got to, it really should be step 1A and 1B is register your operating company and the trade name with a trademark. It should happen simultaneously so that in year one, we figure out, can we get that mark or not?
Thinking back to some of my startups I've been involved with, it was very much a method of just like, well, we'll just pray for this first 2 years or so, and then we'll call somebody like Scott and we'll get him in here and they'll clean up all this mess and we'll sort things out from there. What do those, and you already touched on it a bit there, what do those like early foundational things look like that it's like in your first year of business, you need to do these things so that 10 years, 20 years from now, it's not all falling apart?
Year one is that you need to establish some key relationships. You need to have a CPA. You need to have a lawyer that understands the entrepreneurial journey, not just any lawyer. And you need to have it set up on how you're going to pay them in a way that makes sense for you so that you'll actually use them and include them in your decision making. You need to have a banker lined up that that you've got them on speed dial, and that if you need a favor, that they'll help you. So it's not some big box bank. It's an actual banker. If they move banks, just go with them. Stay with the person. That's more important than the institution if you're a new business. And then you want to file an LLC in a state that has very strong limited liability protection. And then you want to register that name as a trademark. Those are the first things that you have to do. I mean, we skipped over opening a bank account. That's important. You need to make sure And I do see this problem where I've got an LLC, but my bank account is my personal name. Well, you can't do that. You've got to have it in your business. So those are kind of if you'll do those first things, then you're kind of on a solid foundation there to build, and it really doesn't cost very much to do that.
I think that's the hard thing to understand too for business owners is, if I pay you $100 today, it'll prevent me from paying you $1,000 in a year. Right?
Correct.
And probably I need to add a couple more zeros on there. But I mean, in that principle, and I think it's the ability to see what you're trying to achieve and truly looking at it for the long game. Because you always the entrepreneur is always talking about, well, in 10 years we're going to be doing X, Y, Z, and this, that, and the other. But the irony of it is they put very little work into that first year to truly set it up for 10 years, other than their pro forma, where they're just kind of throwing some numbers. Yeah, we'll increase our customer base by 20% year over year until we own the entire world. Yeah. But I won't pay $100 for Scott to look here and make sure I'm getting things set up.
Yep.
I'm going to bring it around. Did you have a comment on that? Because I wanted to bring it around to something else before I want to give you that.
You just got to look at it. It's an investment. It's not an expense. It's an investment. By building these assets, your corporate structure, your board of advisors, and then starting your brand foundation, those are investments that will pay great dividends in the future. If for some reason your business doesn't make it, it's not going to be because you did those things. There's going to be something else that happens. But then you'll know that you're not going to fail because you didn't have the right structure or own your brand. And those are huge.
So what I wanted to bring it back around to is, how do you, as a lawyer, a legal coach, shift gears to running your own business? Because you are your own LLC, right? And how do you do that? From a law firm side of the table.
Yeah, I didn't really realize. I've got a business degree. I didn't really think about it that way until I started working with my first business coach and building the subscription. And then it kind of it's obvious that a law firm really isn't different than other things. It's just that we have professional licenses, and you have to have a marketing system. You have to have a marketing calendar. You have to have a sales script. You have to track your numbers. All those things that everyone else was having to do, I thought, oh, I'm immune from that. I don't have to do that. Nah, wrong. You have to do it. And so we started building the systems in place to do that. One of the things that kind of set me on my course was reading the E-Myth Revisited, and it just was fascinating to me. I'd never thought about trying to build a law firm in a way that would be where I could replicate it and do it over and over again. And so that started that journey. I got a coach to help me start doing this stuff. And so that's it. I mean, you have to have days like Fridays. My Friday calendar is blocked off. I don't take any appointments unless I agree to them, because that's the day that I actually work in my business.
Which is huge too, because there's so much similarity between you and like a surgeon, because a surgeon is they're gonna cut you, right? That's what they do. A lawyer's going to lawyer, and to shift into that mindset. What was it? Your coach? Was it an event? What was the catalyst that brought you back to that? Hey, this is a business.
Well, some of it was when I started my firm in 2005. I was in a kind of executive suites area. We were bootstrapping this thing. And so I was with these other startup entrepreneurs, and, we would sit around and have coffee. And so I would hear what they were doing, I was going to networking groups because that was the cheapest way to market, right? Is to
Yes, it
right.
is.
So I mean, I read guerrilla marketing several times, and it's like, how can we do this without spending money? And so I just started learning things that other people were doing. I mean, one of the things I read early on was Gary Keller's Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I'm not building a real estate agency, but there were so many things I could learn from how how he had built real estate firms to be able to help me figure out who do I hire first? How do you pay them? And so I just started stacking those things up. And then it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, where you do all that research and bring it to your doctor and say, hey, I think I have this kind of cancer. I needed someone to help me assimilate this and give me a path to put all this into action, because I just had too much information from way too many different sources, and it wasn't that's not what I do. I'm a lawyer, and I needed someone from a business perspective that's all they do. Say, okay, I understand your vision. Now here, go do this, then come back and then go do this. And once I found a coach that could give me a map and tell me what to do, hold me accountable to those steps, it became much easier to make that transition from a professional to a business owner.
You talked about the incentive issue when it comes to legal advice, and how that drove you towards this business model. Was this something? I guess it's a little bit of a chicken or an egg type question. Like, did you see it going wrong in other areas, and you were like, "Dude, this incentive is all wrong. We need to fix this," or was it more you had the motto and then you were like, "Oh my gosh, this is smart"? Which way did that go?
No, I had clients that were making. They would come to me with a really bad problem, which usually meant litigation. And so we'd litigate it. They'd spend $100,000. We'd win, and they weren't thrilled because they'd spend $100,000. And a lot of times in cases you win, and what you win is we didn't have to pay damages. We paid our lawyer, and that's it. And so then they go away for a couple of years, go do something else stupid, come back, and I was like, this is just broken, because more than half the time, if they would have let me look at the agreement before they signed it, I could have told them not to sign it, or we could have fixed it for not for $100, but let's just say for $2,000. I could have solved a problem that now cost them $100,000. And so it just really started to weigh on me that why aren't they calling me? I mean, they know me. We've worked together for years. Why are they going out and making these mistakes? And the solution that I came up with was that it was my fault. My model was broken. It didn't work. It created a conflict because they thought I could spend as much time as I wanted on the project and make as much money as I wanted. And so we had to break it. And I started, this was kind of, 2010, 2011, you're starting to see people doing business coaching, and they're charging monthly subscriptions. And that started being kind of popular. Dollar Shave Club came out. I mean, if you can sell razors that way, what else can you do? And so it just dawned on me that why can't you do a low cost legal subscription for small business owners so that they can have their questions answered, their contracts looked at, and not make those big mistakes. And I've proven that I'm right. But yeah, that was a great question. But yeah, it really was. I saw this problem and I had to solve it. And now I'm a 10-year overnight success.
There's
almost there.
Right. In that kind of same vein, I always like to think in terms of like the magic wand solutions for things. When you look at legal business, I got to get my jargon right there, because not the legal systems, that's probably a whole nother conversation, but the business of law. Is this something where if you had the magic wand, you would change everything over to the coaching? Do you think that's a better world? Or do you think it's a world where you need a little bit of both? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would. If it were up to me, the billable hour would be dead. You couldn't do it anymore. There's still times where I have to do it. Litigation is very difficult to find an alternative pricing model. I've tried a few things, but I haven't found anything yet that works. Everything else to me shouldn't be billed by the hour. I believe it creates a conflict between the attorney and client, because if I can spend as much time on a project as I want, then that's a conflict. I'm supposed to be a fiduciary and have your best interest at heart, and that just the whole system. Even if I'm not overbilling you, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, did he really need to spend 2 hours doing that? And so it just creates this conflict, which isn't healthy for the relationship. It doesn't help you solve the problems. And so, yeah, I think it needs to go away. I don't know how to do that. One of the ways is through the subscription model that I've built. But when I built it, no one was doing this. There wasn't anyone I could copy. The fastest way to success is to copy what someone else has done. I couldn't do that. The other problem with that is I also had to create a market because no one was looking for the subscription lawyer. They didn't realize they had a problem.
How did you, let's see, where was I going? Oh, it was, well, first off, after I've stumbled through, because I was trying to write something down, now I remember what I was going to talk about. I had that same issue when I was doing consulting work, hourly consulting work. If they said, hey, Otis, we're going to give you a not to exceed 70 hours a week. And by the way, I think the statute of limitations is probably over for this.
Yeah.
Guess how many hours I would work each week? 70 hours. It's a magic formula. Oh, so I can't do it any more than 70? Then guess what? I'm going to do 70.
Project expands to fit the budget.
Myself. Yeah. Well, I mean, and if I could remember the name of the book without turning around and searching for it on my bookshelf, The Flat Fee, how to consult with a flat fee or something like that. It's a great book, great concept. But boy, it's a completely different mindset. And that mindset, because you had to do the same thing, because, it's an anomaly to have legal advice other than like Legal Shield, and no ding on them, but that's not the same thing.
No.
Right. It's not their services are not what you provide, not anywhere close. Where did this Lone Ranger, I'm going to do it different, where did that start? I mean, was it as a lawyer, or was it even further back in childhood days of like, nah, we shouldn't run the play to the right. We should run it to the left because.
Yeah, there's a little of that I kind of would always do what I wanted to do and do it my way. I'm blessed to have had parents that told me I could do anything I wanted to do, be anything I wanted to be, and that I was special. Now, my wife would sometimes say that wasn't true.
Would be special in a different way.
My mom told me I was too special, but because of that, I just believe I can do stuff. I'm also a Christian, and I believe all things are possible through Christ. And so I'll if I feel like this is something that lines up with my values, I'll take off and dive into it and believe I'm going to be successful until I'm not. It's not that I've never failed, but it's just I believe I'm going to be successful. And it just wore on me that there was this problem, and that I had the ability to solve it. And I had the luxury, because I had a practice that was thriving. I could run the billable side of my practice and had a whole team doing that. And I would jump in and out of that part while I started building the subscription plan. I mean, 1 month in 2013, I met with 45 CPAs. I called it my CPA tour, and to talk to them about what I was doing, trying to find CPAs that liked it and would work with me, because they had everyone I needed. They had all my clients. I only found 2 that I would even refer to. And one of them actually became an Access member, but the rest of them didn't. But I had the time to go and do some experimenting, work with those coaches, because I had a thriving business on the other model. And so I was able over time to, as my billable hours would go down and my subscription revenue would go up. And so now it's very rare that we do anything by the hour. I'm $500 an hour. If someone's crazy enough to spend it, I guess they can, but I always tell them not to.
Yeah. Well, you're making me, I wish I could remember, I didn't watch my local news this morning, so I didn't get my fill of, car accidents and things like that. But that's what pops into my head when I see, think about that in that sort of sense, those crazy billboard commercials, which, that's a good question too. how do you? I mean, you've got the business model, which I'm buying into it right now as we're talking. Uh, but how do you overcome that lawyerness? The joke of the lawyers. The only good lawyer is the one at the bottom of the ocean, and all those sort of things. And when you're driving down the road, I mean, between you and I know it's not King Supers in y'all's area, Kroger. Between you and the Kroger, there's probably 3 or 4 billboards you go by that are lawyers, wanting you to call them because you stubbed your toe in the parking lot and you should be suing Kroger or whoever.
That's
How
right.
how do you handle that sort of label?
I just kind of ignore it. One nice
Yeah.
thing is, and there does seem to be a real line and between personal injury lawyers and small business lawyers. We are looked at differently. And I've done a lot of personal injury work and helped some people with catastrophic injuries, and that's actually helped me because I understand how that side works. I know how to structure things from our side on the small business side to protect you from that. But there really is a difference, and most people are smart enough to know that there is a difference, and you just have to be willing to laugh at it. I mean, it's just is what it is, and it's become like you said that you'll see 10 billboards going a mile. It's become pretty funny. It used to be someone could really set themselves apart by coming up with a clever nickname and running a TV commercial or billboard. Anymore, everyone's got one. So I can't imagine trying to compete in that universe. But I think everyone sees them in a different light than they do people like me that are trying to actually help them.
This episode of the Cam and Otis Show is brought to you by Tribe and Purpose. Are you tired of dealing with the costs of bad leadership? It's time to make a change. The Green Beret Leadership Program is your key to unlocking the full potential of your team. By developing leaders in your business, you'll get a proactive and responsible team that embraces challenges, takes calculated risks, and takes action without constant supervision. Developing great leaders can take a lot of time and energy. And that's why businesses tend to opt for the trial by fire or school of hard knocks path to leadership. The truth is that wastes time and money and puts a lot of extra stress on your leadership team. Poor leadership drives away quality talent, and the longer you wait to fix the problem, the more talent you're going to lose. With the Green Beret Leadership Program, you can use the battle-tested leadership principles of the Green Berets to develop great leaders in your team faster than with the School of Hard Knocks. You'll see changes in just a few short weeks. The longer you wait to take action, the more damage poor leadership can do to your business. Learn more about the impact GBLP can have on your business and schedule your free coaching call with your Green Beret coach, Otis, now at findyourpurpose.coach/GBLP. That's findyourpurpose.coach/GBLP. Don't leave your team to struggle on their own. Give them the tools they need to be great. Do you look at your business model and looking at these other areas of the law and say, gosh, they need this? So, it's, got to put the 2.0 over there, those type of things. Like, especially, I mean, I'm sure that you can point to other areas, but especially with the ambulance chasers, there's got to be some room for improvement there.
Probably. There should probably be some different fee structures over there. But kind of back to the marketing question, to do the billboards we're talking about and the TV commercials, I mean, they are spending, let's say $100,000 a month on marketing. So they've got to have, and so they're taking all the risk for these people that are coming in with their stubbed toes, because they go from the stubbed toes to the quadriplegic. And so those cases can get real expensive. So you've got the marketing budget, and then there are experts and the medical records and all that stuff. So you kind of have to have an incentive on their side to get a couple of big licks every once in a while, or that business isn't worth doing, because they don't make any money on the stubbed toes and the hurt necks. Those they generate cash flow, they generate referrals, but they don't make any money on those.
Yeah, and where do you're talking small business, and that's your focus, at least if I understood that right. Where do you draw the line in your niche? And who's that dang, I really like working with those kind of folk.
Yeah, because I guess the federal government would say a $20 million business is small business. Not to me. To me, it's, and we do some startup stuff, but usually it's $250,000 in sales to about $5 million. you get over 5 million, you've probably got more employees than I can handle. You probably need to have, someone that's full time working with you, and so it's kind of that 250 to 5 million. Occasionally, it's some kind of business that's doing really big ticket deals, and they don't have to have a big team, and we can go bigger. But that's really kind of the niche. They've got employees or a virtual or a team of contractors. I would have said before COVID, they rent space. They have space that they rent, but that all changed.
Yeah.
So, but it's just that kind of a business. We work with a lot of speakers, trainers, and coaches that have completely virtual teams, but they're constantly creating new things. Like there's new programs. Like we work with the Ziglar Corporation, and Tom, the proud son of Zig, will write a new book about every year, and then we have to figure out how do we monetize that book? What programs can we create? And then I get to help put all the legal parameters around that as we create it. It's and that's one of the really micro niches that we work in, and it's a lot of fun because then what I'm doing is exponential because I'm helping people that their primary purpose in life is helping people.
There, as we're talking in these different areas and going through like the legal coaching and those kind of things, one thing that comes to mind is one of my first entrepreneurial ventures. And without going fully down the rabbit hole, people who've been listening to the show, they know Cobra Valley Indoor Farms and what happened with me and my co-founder there. But one of the interesting things that I got into with him a little bit when it all was going down was I was like, you signed this contract, all this kind of stuff, and I was getting mad at him. And he's like, Camden, I'm a people person. You're a legal mind. You want to get them to sign stuff, but I trust them. And it's so laughable looking back on that, and it's a reason we weren't in business very long after that day. But I think there's a really interesting thing in the bigger picture, which is like when you got a bunch of lawyers in the room, things feel different. And I just want to throw that over to you, Scott. What are your thoughts on that of how do we find the balance between the handshake deal and not falling into some crappy legal situation? Where's the balance of that?
Well, there is no balance. You have to have written deals. You cannot do handshake deals. Legal agreements keep honest people honest. And so even with friends, you need to have legal documentation in place that documents the deal thoroughly so that when something goes a little bit wrong, someone says, this was our deal. You aren't going from memory. You're going back to a written document, because if you have to go from memory, someone gets called a liar, and that never goes well. The relationship never goes well after that. So you've got to have something you can go tag and say, this is what we agreed to. This is what we're going to do. In our contracts with our clients, sometimes it's more important that this is what we're not going to do for each other. I'm not going to do this ever. This isn't going to be the result of this. And it's clear. And by doing that, it's that the Ronald Reagan trust but verify. You've got to make sure by doing that, you can really trust the person you're doing with, because yes, shake their hand. That's all. That's great. But you cannot do business that way anymore. You have to have legal documents. And it's so easy now. Technology makes all of that so much easier because we're not trading paper anymore. You can put a document in something like Google Docs and go back and forth and get it just like you want it, and then you can throw it into one of the signing platforms and have digital signatures. It's just so easy now. There's no reason not to have one. One caveat is, though, that if you're doing these yourself and you're downloading them and putting these together from things you found on the internet or having ChatGPT create your contract, the only thing worse than no contract is a bad contract. So you really need to have a legal professional review that agreement. Put your agreement together. Do a good first draft. Then get it to your lawyer and let them use the magic wand on it and put some legal mumbo jumbo in it to make sure that it's going to actually hold up and that it actually means what you think it means.
Mm-hmm. Is there kind of going a little bit broader on that? How do you think we can maybe I should be asking you this, Dad. We should be asking each other, not the lawyer. But it's like, how do we get more comfortable in that kind of a setting? Because for people who don't have the legal background, like I said, it's like when you're in a room full of lawyers, it's like if I say one thing wrong, everything's wrong. It's all going to be out the window. How do we find that kind of balance? Because everything you said is totally right. I can't poke any holes in it, but I still don't want the lawyer looking over my shoulder all the time. how do we deal with that and, kind of make a better, actually going back to the healthcare comparison, make a better culture for us?
It kind of sounds like you need some therapy on this lawyer issue. But that's not for today. I don't know what lawyers have been looking over your
failed businesses will do that
too. Yeah. You don't ever want to be in a room full of lawyers. That's for sure. I don't even hang out with lawyers, but you need to have one that's on your side. If you have a good lawyer, they should be able to empower you to go back into the room yourself, negotiate the deal, because you've gotten the coaching that you needed to do it. You know what the deal points you have to have are, and then you put the deal points together, and then let the lawyers talk with each other and put the fine print together that backs up the deal points. And if so once you've got your deal points, then you back up, get out of the way, let the lawyers do it. If you've got the right lawyer, then they'll document it in a way that promotes it. They want it to go forward. There's a lot of lawyers that pride themselves on being deal killers. You just got the wrong lawyers. You need lawyers that are pro-business, that understand that if you don't get this deal done, you don't make money. And so it's not kill the deal. It's how do we get the deal done, and that they're trying to help you move forward. And so if you get with the right people, and I'm not the only one, there are lots of lawyers out there that are very entrepreneurial. They're doing stuff they're doing their own ventures too. They understand what you're trying to do, and they won't get in your way. They won't intimidate you. They'll be your legal friend and walk you through those landmines. And I think if you do that, you'll have a better experience and not have to worry so much about it.
Yeah, I'm flashing back. That was one of my early business lessons after leaving the Army was, you still got to, even though you trust that guy, and I was putting together partnerships and things like that. And I'm like, oh man, I trust that guy. But because you trust him, you should put it in writing. And I think that is such a key piece that, the John Wayne Western handshake agreement. Yeah, that worked in Hollywood, for John Wayne, but you know what? Does it really work anywhere else? No, it doesn't, because like you said, you've brought this up a couple of times, and I think I'd love to get your thoughts on how to do this. And that is, how do I decide if you're the right lawyer? And when I say you in the general sense, what's some good questions that business owner can ask his lawyer, a prospective lawyer, in order to say, all right, yeah, I think you're a good fit?
Yeah, I would start with kind of asking them the type of clients they work with, right? I would also want to ask them, do they have any other businesses that they participate in, own, operate? Do they have any investment properties? Are they doing investing types of things? And then make sure that the clients that they're working with are not big businesses. They're people like we've talked about that are 250, start up to $5 million, that are still trying to grow and scale, that are creative, and then that he understands your vision. So explain to the lawyer what you're trying to do, and then and get them to kind of give it back to you. What's your understanding of what I'm trying to accomplish here, and how you would help me? The next thing is how do you charge your clients for your services, and make sure you have a clear understanding and that you like it. And so if you're okay paying by the hour, then that's fine, but just make sure you understand it. How much money do you have to keep there on retainer in order for them to respond to your problems? How much do you have to pay them per hour? How often do they bill you? And then how fast do you have to pay them after they bill you? So make sure you're comfortable with all of those things. And then I would want to kind of see how they work. Do you have, what's your team like? Is it just you and you have no help? Do you have employees? Do you have virtual people that are working remotely? Really get to know kind of how they operate. And then I would want to know their general business philosophy. Like some of the questions you asked me earlier were, how do I treat this like a business? Do they understand that they are a business owner just like you? Because if they think they're better than you because they have a law degree, that's not who you want to work with. And there's plenty of those. You're looking for people that understand that they are just like you. They just happen to have a piece of paper that says they've got credentials to provide legal advice, but they're building a business too, and hopefully they're ahead of you. They've maybe already seen a few things that you haven't, and they can give you some real holistic advice. And so that's kind of how I would go about it. And that may be a little bit of work. You may have to interview a few people to find that, because a lot of lawyers, they're part of these big firms. All they care about is that did they hit their billable hour quota? Because if they don't, they're off of a partnership track. And so you have to really dig in a little bit. Other thing I would probably do before I even met with the lawyers, I would ask other business owners, maybe if you're in a networking group type of thing, who should I be talking to? Who understands us? And if you can find someone that's at a networking group, that's even better, because that means that they do get it.
I think that's really interesting, because it's almost, I think that probably because of movies and those type of things, we almost have this mindset of like lawyers kind of like accountants, where it's like we don't necessarily need to get along because you're the person keeping me on track. And it's like, I want to go do all the fun stuff. You're like, no, you can't do that. That was your first question, right? Mm-hmm. Keep the person keeping you on track there. But you can't have that happy medium where they're keeping you on track, but it's still a person you get along with. You still share those philosophical ideals.
Yeah. And the accountants are the same way. In my opinion, you should be having regular conversations with your accountants about everything you're doing, because, again, the more transparent you are with how you're running your business and your life, the more they can help you. Too many accountants, in my experience, are historians. All they want to tell you is where you've been, here's what you owe. You don't want that. You want someone that will help you work, understand the right processes for managing your money as it comes in and goes out, set up your chart of accounts, and then help you with strategy on how to operate more efficiently from a tax standpoint. And if you can't do that once a year, you've got to be meeting probably monthly, at least quarterly, to make those minor adjustments. If you wait till December, it's too late.
It's kind of funny as I ask this, because I do think, you are a piece of this changing landscape, because, you are disrupting the market, by changing that incentive system, changing that payment structure. What other kind of changes do you see looking forward? I mean, you already joked about ChatGPT writing up your own contracts, those kind of things. What kind of changes are you seeing coming?
Yeah, you're going to see lawyers and other professionals utilizing artificial intelligence to run their operations more efficiently. That won't work if you're working by the billable hour, because you can't do that. It shortens the time. But professionals that are trying to be more efficient, right? They're providing a value, not time. They're going to start using artificial intelligence to do that in a more efficient way. I've seen some amazing things that it can do, and I use artificial intelligence on a weekly basis to help with our social media, to help with our blog posts, to make. I've had it revise things that I've written. I've had it make suggestions on letters. It's amazing what you can do with it, and so it's kind of scary what it can do. But it's one of those things that you either get on the train or you're going to get run over. So I think that the smart professionals are going to start using it to provide more efficient service, and maybe even a higher quality service, because it's just amazing what it can do. I've seen it write better letters than my team will write, and I have to then go, hey guys, why is this better than what you just gave me? And so we have to have those conversations, because sometimes people, if you're trying to be efficient as a human, you may cut some corners. Well, AI doesn't do that. It doesn't cut corners. It's going to take all the information it has, synthesize it, and then give you the answer to your question. And so I think lawyers and other professionals have to become better at understanding how to use it. Right? It's an art form of figuring out how to write the prompts to make AI do what you want to do. And so it's just going to be a different world, not in the next 10 years, in the next 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, because the two examples in the legal field that I've heard, and I think these made more national headlines, but there was a guy who trained a Chat GPT, or it was might have been a different one, to pass the bar exam somewhere, and it's like at the same day you're getting that headline, like, oh my gosh, lawyers are gone, all this, and there was another guy who I think it was an actual lawyer who had a Chat GPT full set of documents, and he put it in, and it was completely wrong, lost his license, all that kind of stuff. We're going to see. I think to your point, Scott, we're going to see both of those happening.
Yeah, I agree. And I've looked at specific AI applications created for the legal profession that have read the actual legal opinions, not the whole internet, right? Mm-hmm. So it kind of can get rid of some of the things that will make it wrong. But I don't see in the near future eliminating the need to review what the AI has done. You're still going to have someone who's got the license to sign off on, yeah, that's right. But it's amazing how much more efficient you can be by using those tools. I
think, Dad, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is another Eric Holtzclaw point. Maybe I'm mixing up our guests, but he said we're moving from creation to curation. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Scott. It's like you still need somebody to go through and make sure the document's actually good, even if they're not the one writing it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the point I was going to make is, it's not a substitution. It's an additional employee that's giving you a first draft.
Correct.
Probably the way to look at it.
You bet.
Maybe it's a third draft value, but still, you got to read it. You got to make sure it's right, because it doesn't know what's wrong and what's right.
No, and it also seems to create things that are lack of void of personality. And so in most things, you need to go back and add back in the human personality to it.
That's a great point. I don't think I've heard anybody say that. But that is not the thing that I learned today. I can just tell you that. Although that is a really important point, folks. Put that one in your pocket, in your little notebook pocket, that it's still a robot. It ain't human. It doesn't know how to interact with people. It just knows how to answer questions. And I've known those people that just know how to answer questions, by the way. So maybe they were the precursor to AI. But I'll tell you, for me, the what I learned, quite simple. It's don't be in a room full of lawyers. And because that might be an indicator. I'm just saying. So, yep, I'm putting that one in my pocket and in my little notepad of reminders. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
I was going to say, I don't think it's the lawyers in the room that's the problem. It's what puts you in that room full of lawyers. That might be what you want to start looking at, right? Well, we're harping on that same joke from Scott, but I need therapy for lawyers. I got an extra fear of lawyers. I have no idea why. I must have gotten bullied by a kid who grew up to be a lawyer or something. I don't know. I was going to say, Dad, I need to go have lunch with Matt and talk with him about it, but he's probably the wrong person because he's a lawyer. So I need to talk with somebody else about this.
That's right.
I'll figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
Well, Scott, how about you? What'd you learn?
Yeah. Well, I did learn that Camden needs therapy on that issue, but I think the bigger thing I learned is that there are small business owners that are still fearful of having lawyers involved in their deals. It's not just the money side of it that's preventing them from using me. It's their perception of what lawyers can do to their life or their business.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That's so important. And there's some, all the jokes and laughs aside, there's some serious lessons to be learned in how to make sure you're setting yourself up for that long-term success. And people who want to do that, Scott, how do they find you, follow you, see what you and the team have going next?
Yeah, I'm going to give you two ways to do that. If you go to our website, which is www.reiblaw.com/Otis and Cam, you can find a page just for this show. And on that page, you can book with me, not with my team, with me, a what I call a laser legal coaching session, 20 minutes. Let's figure out what your big issue is that I can help you with right there on the call. And then you can also, there's a way to download my free ebook, Is Your Business Shatterproof? And then if you want to get more information like we've been talking about today, the best place to go is Instagram at the Scott Reib, and we do 5 to 10 reels a week with legal tidbits that you can actually apply to your business.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Yes. Say that website again, just so everybody makes sure they got it spelled right.
It's www.reiblaw.com.
Awesome. Well, hey, Scott, man, this has been great. A lot of fun hanging out with you today. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to the Cam and Otis Show, and a special thanks to our guest, Scott Reib, for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to pass it along to someone else so they can enjoy it too. Make sure to follow the Cam and Otis Show on Facebook and Instagram, and you can watch full videos of the show on our YouTube page. And while you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button too. As always, the full archive of episodes is available at www.camandotisshow.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.